A lot of times the color hides in right between the shadow and the highlight. So pump up the blue jeans in this area right here. It's important not to use too much color. A lot of people use way too much color. It's fine for Caribbean art. You know, I love Caribbean art, but it all depends on what style you're going for. Caribbean art is all, you know, the sky's the limit with hue, and you know, it's kind of like living on acid or something. But I like to keep the bright colors as an ace up your sleeve kind of thing, because you can pull it out and it'll really pop if you get a lot of grays. A lot of artists are afraid of mud and grays, but they're actually a secret. So I'm just hitting the highlights on the jeans right now. It's a great photo I just found on online, and just changing a bunch of things in the image. Added a dog, and so that if I ever make prints of it, I won't get sued. So. Plus it's a painting, and the reference I'm using, I've got a monitor over here. It's just a photo of somebody in their backyard brink with their kids. So right now the medium I'm using is this OMS, odorless mineral spirits, and double boiled linseed oil, and obviously oil paint. And that's just a cheap canvas panel, you know, nothing too expensive. Really looking forward to my Rosemary and Company Mongoose paintbrushes. Are going to arrive any day. Some of my favorite artists in the world use their paintbrushes, so it's going to be pretty cool. Alright, so I'm just hitting the highlight again, like the real highlight on the jeans. You always should pick where your highlights are, know where they are before you even get into it, because nothing should come close to them, because the highlight should be the absolute last thing you paint in on any area. So I see a lot of horizontal kind of wrinkles in the jeans here, so I'm going to try to show those a bit. So I've got a mirror behind me, so I always look at the reverse image. Is a great trick for finding your errors instantly. So if you have a home studio for painting, you really need a mirror right behind you. So I just see some higher keyed blue down there, so I'm just adding that in. And just going to hit some more highlights here. And I'm just using really cheap brushes. They're Artist Loft at Michael's, and they're synthetic flats, and I love them. You know, they're cheap. For some of the real fine later details, I use mongoose or red sables. Just going to pop this out here just a little more. I'm going to try to bring the blue out a little more as well right here. Okay, now I see a highlight in here. Pop that in right here so it'll give some form up here in this dark area. And a lot of times it's good to use the whole brush when you can. Just going to add a little more curve in the dark area here to go around. A lot of times it's good to exaggerate curves. Can't really exaggerate a straight line, that'd be redundant, but I always try to exaggerate any curves I see. Okay, so I'm not looking for fine detail at this point. I'm just getting the overall form. Should always hit the overall form first before getting into any fine detail, because you get yourself in trouble if you go for detail, because you'll be putting detail where it doesn't belong, guaranteed. So okay, now I'm using dioxine purple. I always try to make my my darks warm. Well, the hardest things for clothing is edges, the seams and stuff. A lot of artists don't take time to get the edges proper. It's all just about observation, careful observation. Okay, I'm gonna hit the highlight now in the jacket. So obviously it's very warm, so a cadmium red. And alizarin crimson I've got, and I'm going to dirty it down a little burnt sienna. Maybe a little alright. Now I'm going to hit the highest hued highlight right now, so I know that that's that's the one I've got to compete with, which is right there. See another hot one right here, so I'll go ahead and put that one in. Okay, so another one right there. I can't emphasize enough to get away from your canvas. The further back the better, because that way you can see the forest for the trees. If you're up close, you're looking at the bark of the tree and you can't see anything. So my friend Carolyn wanted me to put some YouTube videos up of my oil paintings and showing some tips, so this is going out to you. So, or Karen, sorry. Okay, I need more red in that. And get some small little highlights over here. And good painting is about brushwork. It's not about scrubbing, you know, like doing this stuff. Don't do that. But it's easier said than done. I mean, I've done hundreds of paintings. You learn by your mistakes and learning by watching your heroes paint. Some of my favorite artists are Richard Schmid, obviously, Alla Prima master, living master. Who's Jeremy Lipking is fantastic for his age. So I really watch what they're doing. But up here in Canada, you know, there's we're pretty humble up here. It's hard to find really good representational artists, so it can be pretty lonely when it comes to learning from other artists. And I live in Moncton, so it's there's a lot of great artists here, but a lot of either they're realists and they're like photorealists and they're afraid of color and they just do everything in black and white, or it's hard to find people of the same cloth, or whatever the expression is. I'm just going to clean my brush because I want some red to really pop out. So I got my cadmium and cadmium red and alizarin crimson, which are your go-to reds, for mine anyway. Okay, so I see a real highlight right there. A lot of times when you want to lighten your red, you should add a little yellow in there if you don't want it to end up looking too pink, because if you add white to it, it's just going to end up being pink. So nothing wrong with pink, but sometimes you don't want it pink. So it's really my first time doing a online demonstration. So really, I know it sounds really simple, and I don't want to sound arrogant or anything, but it's just about putting paint where it belongs, and simple as that. I mean, instead of moving paint around, just put it where it belongs. You know, it sounds simple, but it's all experience. You got to put in the hours, and you can get lost in your painting and the I see a really red area here, so I'm gonna some. And I get no problem with using student grade oil paints like Winton. If the masters of 200 years ago had access to that stuff, they'd be in heaven. I mean, we're so spoiled now with the pigments and the stuff we got. A lot of artists say they use nothing but the archival, all this really expensive stuff, but they're just being arrogant and pompous. You don't need the real expensive stuff. At least I don't. So. Okay, so that. Okay, so that's pretty good. So I'm going to get the higher key highlights of the jacket now, and it does kind of drift off into a burnt sienna. Burnt sienna is kind of like a go-to color for me. I've tried Terra Rosa, which a lot of the portrait artists use. It's good, but I can get whatever flush tones I need out of burnt sienna, burnt umber, yellow ochre, and the cads and the alizarin crimson. Okay, so I'm going to hit the highest highlight here on the arm first. And that tells me I can go a little lighter. And I see an angle here, but and always looking in the rear view mirror here to see what the mirror can reveal. And sometimes it's good not to put too much detail, you know, like just hint. I'm kind of like a representational impressionist. I like to hint at what's going on, let the viewer's imagination fill in, because people's eyes fill in the rest. If you set the mood, you can let the viewer imagine the other details. They make themselves some of the details. Okay, I'm gonna get some cad yellow, cad red, so it's a real hot orange I've got on my brush now. I'm just gonna hit some real highlights just to and I find the best strokes are quick strokes. No, because the quick strokes are always confident, they're not labored. I mean, you can tell an artist's abilities by their strokes. If you get this photorealism, everything's brushed in and you can't tell anything, and it's not interesting. Brush strokes are, otherwise, if you don't got brush strokes, just take a photo and be done with it. In my opinion, anyway. I mean, everybody's got their different tastes, so. Okay, I'm going to hit the highlight on top of his hat. And that's really hot. When I say hot, I mean warm, red. Cool, obviously, is blue. but this is really hot, so there. And when you're doing thin lines, make them thinner than you think. That's a good tip, but that took me years to put that into practice. Okay, the highlight on the hat on the right. See if this is still recording. Yeah. Yeah, so I do a lot of commissions, so if you like my style, I'd be more than happy to paint your family or whatever subject you have. I just started this painting probably just over an hour ago, so you can see it doesn't take me long. So I'm kind of addicted to painting, I think. Bit of a workaholic, but it beats being a Walmart greeter. Not that there's anything wrong with being a Walmart greeter. Alright, so I'm going to leave that hockey stick end until I'm out, until I get the dog where I want him. Yeah, right now I'm just using a number 4 flat bristle brush. I'm just going to go in and hit the darks with Ivory or Mars Black, Elizabeth Crimson, and Burnt Umber, and a little purple. A lot of times when you want your blacks, your darks really opaque, just mix them with some of your darkest hued pigments and you'll be all set. So I'm just going after the form right now of the dog. It's all about lights and darks. Everything else, detail,